Welcome to the Hsld podcast. My name is Zach Bernhardt, a former athlete, current orthopedic surgery resident, and founder of Hsld, short for high speed, low drag. This show is all about high performance, where drive meets discipline, and each episode I sit down with athletes, leaders, and high achievers from every walk of life to unpack the habits, mindsets, and stories behind their successes. If you move with purpose, you're in the right place. Coach Hsld?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I couldn't be better. Thanks for sitting down with me. Obviously you've had a little bit going on since you got done with coaching. I did not see the book coming. So tell us a little bit about the book. We'll start there, and then you and I can kind of recount some old stories, maybe talk your coaching career. But the spirit of a team.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the inspiration on this and what
got
you going.
Let me say this first.
Yeah.
Zach, I'm really proud of what you've done. You know, you started here at Hsld University, and from the very beginning it was all about medical school and going on to the career that you're into right now. And, you know, you stayed with it and fought through it, and I'm proud of you where you're at right now and everything else and all the other irons in the fire that you have and how well you're doing. It's pretty impressive. But I've known your family for a long, long time, uncle and father, and of course now you've got a brother coming up as having a heck of a career. But I really appreciate you having me here, and really appreciate the relationship I've had with you and your family over many, many years. This book, I'd always thought about during my coaching career to kind of collect everything, all my meeting notes, all my clippings. My wife did most of that. A notebook on every season. And so if it ever got to a point where your career's over and you want to try to look back through it, can you take and pick and choose from all the different seasons you've gone through and teams you've coached and lessons you've learned and put it in some kind of an order that might be helpful, you know, to other coaches or to other team leaders. And I had some folks, a couple agents and a couple publishing companies that really wanted me to go tell just your story, a memoir of your career in coaching, and I really didn't want to do that. I wasn't excited about doing that. What I thought I wanted to be able to do is have a book that would have the lessons that I had learned about team building, the experiences I'd had in team building, the things that worked in team building, and put that into an organized format, and into a structure that we used at every team. But what I thought was most exciting about the book is that I would go back through and visit with some of the coaches and CEOs that had impacted me during my coaching career. Young men that I'd coached had gone on to NFL players like Charlie Fry, or coaches who had coached with us and gone on to head coaches in the NFL like Matt LaFleur. Businessmen like Dwight Shaw, who is responsible for the building we're in right now, or Dan Niss, who's responsible for that indoor facility, and tell their stories and their success because they're inspiring. I'm always inspired by that story, and then tie that into a chapter in the book that may talk about recruiting talent, or talk about leadership, or talk about work ethic, or talk about courage, you know, and it seemed like it kind of fell together pretty good. And it ended up really being something I enjoyed doing. You know, it took almost 2 years to get it done, believe it or not. But
I can believe it.
That's kind of how it all started.
That's incredible. I mean, first off, thank you for the kind words. You know, I owe you a ton. I mean, I still remember going to New Orleans with you for the good works. I mean, that's, you know, we went through some battles out there on the field, you know, together, and obviously I learned a lot of lessons that I'm sure are in this book from you. Even when what I do today, I call back to, you know, the hard coaching that I got, different coaches, high school, college, everything, but the hard coaching, right, you really begin to appreciate that when you get out into the careers that we all choose, and, you know, the people that you're talking to, the names you're saying, I'm sure they would all share that sentiment. So, you know, the things that you're proud of me for, you know, I directly correlate to probably the lessons that I learned here, and I tell that to people. So it's good to hear that you took all of those things and you put them down on paper. You know, I would love to do the same thing maybe one day, you know, with some of the lessons. So Jim Tressel wrote the foreword here. So talk about your relationship with old Jimmy with the sweater vest.
Well, I've known Coach Tressel for a long time. I don't know if there's another coach out there that's had as big an impact on Ohio football
Yeah.
as Jim Trussell.
Oh, yeah.
You know, his father, Lee Trussell, was a great coach in Massillon and BW, and then Jim played there at BW and went on to be GA at Akron, and obviously unbelievable national championship coach at Youngstown State and then at Ohio State. But even now he's lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
But even the bigger,
Yeah.
bigger impact that Coach Trussell had was that he always was promoting football in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, he came and was here for our dedication of this facility. He wrote a piece for me to get published when we were trying to raise money for this facility to be built. You know, if it was at a high school, as a high school coach, I could call him up and ask him to come over, and he would speak at a banquet. I mean, he never said no. I don't know how he does it, and
Yeah.
he's just an amazing person, and he and Ellen are wonderful people, and they're really supportive. He's probably written more forwards for books than anybody else in the state of
Yeah.
Ohio. But it was great that he was willing to do that, and I really appreciate the kind words that he shared in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. Obviously, just came out. When did it actually come out? It was just recently.
Well,
on
September
Amazon.
September 2nd is really the release date. Okay, through Simon and Schuster.
Okay.
But the publishing company Tucker that I'm with right now really works with Simon and Schuster. Actually, they were able to work with 4 or 5 books a year that Simon & Schuster will do most of the marketing for.
Yeah.
And they're a worldwide firm, obviously, with a great outreach into all kinds of markets. So it's great to do that. So they're actually running their own campaign starting September 2nd with their own Amazon release and bookstore releases and that sort of thing. But we were allowed to do some pre-publishing, start the initial Amazon account through Tucker, and get some books out ahead of time. So it worked out pretty good. So I mean, I think we had close to 1,500 books pre-published early, and well, we've sold close to that many already, which is crazy.
That's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah,
I shared the
crazy.
link twice today. I had a couple people ask about it. You know, a couple people we spoke to today, and then even this morning I shared a link at work. So I'm gonna do what I can for you.
I
But
appreciate
no,
that.
I think the word will spread, and you know it'll do itself justice. So, talk us through your coaching career. So you started out. I know that you were at one point at Crestview High School. You know, little Crestview. I know Madison as well. Right? You made a stop there.
Well, I played there. Played there. Yeah.
So where did this start? Where did the passion for football start? And then how did you find your way into coaching? And where did that start?
Yeah, I've been able to work my career through the book and kind of tell my story through the players I've coached and the coaches I coached with and the corporate leaders I've really gotten close to. But it's, you know, started as a high school player at Mansfield Madison, playing for the likes of Keith Wakefield and his passion for the game. I talk about learning passion first from Coach Wakefield. It talked about as a junior high player or being in junior high school wanting to play ball. My parents were unaware of that aspect, how important it was to me, and you'll have to walk home every day if you want to play, and how it just changed my life. I couldn't believe it. You know, I enjoyed the grind, enjoyed being with the team, enjoyed the sport, and so I knew at some point that was, you know, what initially hooked me. I was going to go on to law school. Went to Bluffton College, was going to go to law school, but I was a teaching coach for a year at Waynesfield Goshen in Auglaize County, and next thing you know, I'm loving it, and I can't believe they're paying me to do it. And then they call me down here at Crestview High School to come and work for Bill Cedar.
Yep.
I play golf with Bill today, believe it or not. And I coached there for a few years as his assistant. I only worked for 2 coaches, Bill Cedar at Crestview and John Cooper at Ohio State.
Yeah.
You know, and both great guys.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from both. But I tell the story in the book about that Crestview team that we had in '82 that went undefeated and only allowed 2 touchdowns all year long. And your uncle Rodney was the quarterback on that team.
Yeah.
He was also the starting linebacker. He also had the best GPA. I mean, amazing
Tough as
story.
nails, man.
And there was nobody tougher than he
Nobody
was.
tougher.
Yeah.
That was one tough SOB, man.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, in a lot of quarterback stuff, you're going to have to get this, Nathan. There's a lot of quarterback stuff, particularly in the first book about finding your Tom Brady. And my Tom Brady was Carl Johnson. I went from Crestview to Gallion.
Yeah.
Carl Johnson led us to the state championship. The book's really centered around Carl and his life, how football impacted his life, saved him from a really, really tough upbringing in Gallion, to leading us to a state championship, to going on to now where he's, you know, running a private equity company, which is incredible what he's doing. But about quarterbacks, the one thing we've identified with quarterbacks, and we don't want to share too much with you here,
Yeah.
but you look for the one thing. I talk about all the quarterbacks I coached, all American quarterbacks that led us to championships, and was it release, was it size, was it speed, was it quickness, was it instincts? Some had a little bit of everything, but really what it came down to more than anything else, and I bring this up because of your uncle, it was toughness and character. The one thing they all had in common, they were all tough guys, and they were all good people, good leaders, good teammates, come from great families. In Carl's case in Gallion, it wasn't necessarily his own family, but it was those people in Gallion who kind of adopted
Rallied
him,
around
him and took care of him.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the coaching, and it's from Gallion to Lancaster, and Lancaster to Massillon, and Massillon to Ohio State, and Ohio State to Akron, and then we end up here
we are.
at Ashland. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you asked a lot of coaches, quarterback coaches, head coaches alike, to kind of sum up what does make that quarterback. Everybody talks about the it factor, right?
Yeah.
Of a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think if you talk to a lot of coaches, they may say it a little different, in different ways, and they may all put their own spin on it. But yeah, that was your it factor,
That was
right?
it.
What you identified in them.
That was it.
Yes.
You played with Tarnowski a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been around a tougher guy?
No.
I mean, that guy would stand in there and take a hit
Shots.
right at the end. Remember his freshman year getting hit by Jamie Meter? We had the varsity against everybody else, and he was everybody else, young freshman, and Meter just laid him out.
Yeah.
And he got back up, took the team down for the touchdown.
Yep.
I knew something special about him at that point.
Absolutely.
It's just the case that those guys just have that. It's hard to explain. Charlie Fry. I mean, I don't know how much you had the chance to meet Charlie, but there wasn't any tougher.
No.
I mean, we played a game at the Rubber Bowl one time, and Byron Leftwich broke his leg, and they took him to the hospital, brought him back, and the linemen were carrying him, and he finished the thing. And the whole story, still to this day, is about him playing with that broken leg. And they forget to tell in the story that we won the game, number one.
Yeah.
The Zips beat Marshall.
Yeah.
And they forget to tell also that our quarterback took just as many hits, got back up just as many times, and still found a way to lead our team to victory, and that was Charlie Fry.
Yeah, and Charlie's had a hell of a coaching career, because of those same traits. He's a phenomenal coach and phenomenal leader of men, it sounds like, too. So, yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, we had some incredible guys here, during our time. Obviously your time spanned longer than mine here, but I just look back at all those teams, and maybe we're biased or maybe I'm biased, but I think that stretch, there was something special about what we had going on here. That 12 to 17 stretch, and we talked a little bit about this off camera beforehand. But the league was different. You didn't have a week off. You really didn't. I mean, you had to bring it every day, and it started with getting wins with guys like Travis, guys, across the board, your linebackers on the other side, whoever it may be, but we had a lot of leadership in that locker room too. So
and not always just because they were great players by any means. There was a lot of great people.
Yeah.
You talk about some of the guys you run around
my
with
best
today.
friends this day, 10 of them.
Yeah.
10 of them, if not more.
Great people. I mean, your situation, you come here as a quarterback, fight for the position, like
7 people
Yeah, there's
taking reps.
7
guys taking reps.
But like so many of the guys in your family, you
Just find a way.
Yeah, you find a way to get on the field. You play defense. You fight and fight and fight. If I'm not mistaken, Zach, your very last game here as a starting linebacker, you were the defensive player of the week in the conference.
Yep.
Think about that.
You are correct.
And you fight. How many guys would have quit, left, made excuses, done something different? But that kind of sums up the character of some of the players we had here during that stretch.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I look back and I just think about, how things could have changed and been done differently or whatever. But hindsight's 20/20, they say, but I wouldn't change a thing, because I think the resilience that, I have today in my day-to-day job, it all stems from, what I went through here with A.G. Kruger and all those guys. I think it was probably a locker room and just a culture here that you couldn't even get away with today.
Yeah,
and I think it was a great culture because of that. It's a shame that you can't, but I'm sure there's more like that in the book as well. But
a lot of Ashland stories. I mean, if you just go to the middle of, there's a structure in building team building. The first one
Yes.
is, the foundation, and there's process, and then there's the pursuit of it. But a big part of the process is the plan. It's obviously you have goals and you have a plan, then you have belief in the plans. Well, the plan chapter is really kind of cool because it's Dwight Scharf, first of all. He's featured in that chapter. And Dwight Scharf's story about coming here with nothing as a student, and look where he is today. Largest home builder in America, and we have this building today because of Dwight Scharf, And so we hear his story, and he talks throughout his story about how he always had a plan, what he was going to do next and how he was going to get it done. And he goes step by step by step, and what he went through to get to where he is today.
Plan to prepare or prepare to fail, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time. And then later in the chapter, we talk about Adam Shaheen, one of your buddies. Guy comes in here without a scholarship.
The only guy I know to ever get a nickname and eliminate his own nickname and say, you're not going to call me that anymore. I've never met a person before.
I didn't know that. You have to tell me the story.
So he
should put in the book.
Oh, man. So when he showed up on campus, right, he was big walnut, played basketball, loved football, went and played at Pitts Johnstown basketball for a year, and then, he tells the story to us about going to Ohio State football game at the Shoe, or, watching it, and had remembered his recruiting. He said, I want to get back into football and everything. He had the itch. Basketball wasn't doing it. And Coach Geiser in them and had created a relationship with them out of high school, and so he shows up here. But he's 6'6", 6'7", 215, 220, dripping wet, and 220 sounds big to the average person, but not on a 6'7" frame. And Logan Slavinsky and Matt Schweitzer and those guys, they called him Stork when he showed up. And he was Stork for about a year. And you remember going up to Tech in that blizzard. Where we were going to fly into Marquette, or we were going to fly into Houghton. We couldn't, so we flew into Marquette. They took the buses down to Marquette, and we had to get on the buses in Marquette and then drive to Houghton. And Adam and I sat next to each other on the bus during that ride, and that was soon after he had gotten back, or he had shown up on campus. And I just remember that beanpole sitting next to me, like blizzard bus, knees are up against the seat. We didn't talk much because we were all pissed off, and everybody just hates what's going on. But he shows back up that next summer, and he's like 260. And we're like, dude, what happened? Like, everybody's like accusing him of everything. The Chipotle prospect, right? Dad hands him the credit card and says, you can go to Chipotle whenever you want. And all of a sudden he puts on 40 pounds, late bloomer, and the rest is history, man. I mean, again, led all divisions in receptions at tight end that year. We went undefeated, and it was something to behold, right?
Second round or third round?
Second round.
Second round.
45th overall pick.
Yeah, highest Division II player since Walter Payton, drafted in the only other second round.
And if not for the injury bug,
I agree.
He
had a career there.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
he still had a decent career, but not like it could have been if he had stayed healthy, like so many guys.
He's found his way. He and I are going to talk at some point, and it's funny enough. Dow Loggins, Nathan's to-be head coach at App State, was the Bears OC at that time and drafted him.
So he's very familiar.
And so he knows. And when we went on Nathan's official, he was sitting there. He's like, "Ashley," he's like, "You play with Adam?" I was like, "Yeah, that's like one of my best friends." He goes, "No way, I love that guy. I'm the one that drafted him." So that was a cool connection. You realize how small the football community is, regardless of how big it may seem at times. So,
well, I use Adam in the chapter on planning and having a good plan and believing in him. But because when he come in and sit down with Coach Geiser and I, his father was with him, and and he's like, "Hey, we've got a plan." And he wants to play in the NFL. And I said, right now we're just worried about trying to get you a scholarship. First of all, get on the field. And he's, I've watched I know how big an NFL tight end has to be. I know how fast, how strong an NFL tight end have to be. I know what skills I'm going to have to learn and get better at. I mean, he's playing JV football the first year. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. But he has talent. He has great skill, and he ends up being a guy built like an offensive tackle and run like a wide receiver kind of guy.
I'll never forget that catch he had, drag across the middle at Ferris State that year.
Runs their whole secondary.
Outruns everybody. Yeah. And that was the play when everybody says, everybody kind of like, oh, okay, we got something here. Yeah. So, you watch things like that, and it's hard to believe we lost the game. But, so it goes. Yeah. But, Adam, heck of a player. You had Jarris, you had Jamie. Obviously, Jamie, his probably claim to fame is blocking that kick in the year that the Browns.
The only game the Browns won.
Yeah. So we had some talent here.
I talk a lot about a lot of these Ashland guys in the book. There's no question about that. But the good thing too is that that experience I had at Ohio State. I mean,
Yes.
Luke Fickle and I become close. He played when I was there. I tell stories about Luke when he coached with me and as a player and kind of follow his career as he moved up the Division I, National Coach of the Year, played for a national championship in the four when they were taking four against Alabama. He played, but. I get to tell that story. I get to tell the story of Orlando Pace, who I had a chance to coach, and how important it was. Even a guy that big and that talented still needed to have people who believed in him. And it's a great story. I get to tell the story about recruiting Eddie George, and I get to tell the story about Corey Stringer, being able to coach him and again, it's another guy with great passion for the game.
Jason Taylor even too.
And Jason Taylor, he was at Akron, but the guys at Akron like Jason and Charlie, their stories are told, but the Ohio State guys. So it really is there's guys from just about everywhere I coached and teams everywhere I coached that you're able to bring in and pull it all together into one really textbook on team building. And that's the thing we try to do is like. I wanted to try, as a young coach, I'm trying to find my way. You're reading every book you can find on team building and leadership. You're talking to everyone who'll talk to you. At that time, you're listening to cassette tapes and everything you can get. But if there had been a book, out there that had it kind of all condensed into a lesson like, here's how we did this, and here's why it worked, and it would have been nice to have. And so that was really the idea, to try to get this on as many team leaders, as many coaches' desk as possible. There was a guy at St. Ed's High School, was a wrestling coach named Howard Ferguson, and he wrote a book called The Edge. Just about every coach in America had his book on their desk. The thing that was in that book that I tried to do here too is there were a lot of short stories, motivational short stories, and there were a lot of quotes. Coaches like short stories and quotes
Of course.
They're inspiring and motivational. And so I've really tried to, in each chapter, include a short story or two or a motivational quote or two that really relates to that lesson. So it's not one of these things you can read for the first time. It's really kind of a resource book. You go back in and Coach Kaiser's talking about, wants to talk to the team about confidence or believing in himself. You can go through that whole chapter and just pull certain things out and then use those things with the team. As a matter of fact, I think what he's going to do, we did this at Akron. We had lost 4 straight years. We had to have a winning season to keep our job. And I thought we had got to a point where we were due. We just didn't believe in ourselves. And so I got this book called Permission to Win. And Ray Pelleter was the author of that. And I gave it to every player and camp, and I made every player read it. And I lectured in camp every day to each player. And it really was about each player on that team making a commitment, those self-imposed limitations that we put on ourselves and excuses about why we couldn't win, trying to get rid of all that and just play like a winner. And I'm thinking this is going to do it. This will put us over the top. This is my 5th year there.
Money.
This is money. And we go out and lose our first game 72-21 to Penn State in the opener.
But it was just the opponent. It was Penn State. That's all it was.
Penn State.
We got a recipe here.
But there was something different about it. It really was like there was something different after that week because we had a lot of tough early season losses. And we won our next 5. And then we went to Navy in Game 6. It's our homecoming game. They're leading the country in rushing like most Navy teams. Roger Staubach is there to deliver the ball for homecoming. And I tell the story.
You can't be a Staubach pregame. Come on.
No, come on, we're done.
No.
We're done.
And
we're down 4 touchdowns early in the second quarter. I'm going, oh man. No, and you just saw something different about the team. Like we can beat these guys. We scored 30 the next 31 points, and ended up winning that game. And so, and then went on to a 7-4 season. And really the next 3 or 4 years after that, we turned the corner. It was just. And I really like to credit the point to this. These guys just have to believe in themselves. They can do it. I know it might be Navy. I get that. but we had the ability to win that
Yeah.
game. And we had a quarterback, Butchie Washington,
Yeah.
that, he was his second year. He was a leader. He was a winner. He was tough.
Yeah.
Team rallied around him. And then, of course, Charlie Fry followed him up after that, and we had some pretty good teams.
Yeah. And, I think it's, your message there is being a dealer in hope. And I think that's, you want to talk about one thing I walked away from this facility with, of all the lessons, right? The one that sticks with me, and leaders, they delegate, they do all these different things, right? They lead by example, but they're dealers in hope.
Yeah.
Right, Tim Rose.
Coach Rose,
We
how many
can talk-
times I use that concept, and I talked about Coach Rose and his passion, and that concept about us as coaches having to be dealers of hope.
Yeah. And even now to this day, with the company, the brand, it's, we're going to get this done, right? It's a lofty goal that we have with everything. And then, in the residency, right? I'm our chief resident, and there's 14 residents, who are part of our team along with me. And, there's 2 at the same level as me, and there's 12 who are, proceeding classes down. And that is, at the end of the day, whether they see it or whether I say it each day, that's at least the mentality I come in each day. It's like, I gotta elevate the team, right? Be a dealer in hope, right? Even when it's tough, we haven't slept, there's a lot of cases, there's a lot of volume, be a dealer in hope. So that's something that, that may be the one thing I took the most walking out of here too. So yeah, I can imagine that you've carried that along with many teams.
Absolutely.
Years, so.
And being around coaches like Tim Rose, I mean, it's just, again, you just have to sit and listen
You
to
gotta
the guy.
surround yourself.
Yeah, you surround yourself with great people.
Yep.
And we've been able to do that everywhere we've been. I talked about you're trying to find your Tom Brady. Well, how do you do that? First of all, you surround yourself with a lot of really good people.
Yeah.
And, that guy will show up.
You're only as good as your team.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I coached with a guy by the name of Greg Gillum a lot of years. Greg was at Ashland with us for a while, and all through all of our high school stops. And Greg's now the chief of staff for Luke Fickle at Wisconsin. And Greg was just that person. He was a quality person. You talk about surrounding yourself with good people, with great values, and those kind of guys attract other good people.
Yeah.
And then Billy Condiff came to Ashland because of Greg Gillum. I mean, Greg was recruiting him, and you could just see that he realized the quality, the kind of person that Greg was. And
I feel like Billy was your catalyst too. I feel like he's the one that he was when you got here. You didn't know what maybe you had, and you got Billy on campus, and you're like, all right, now we go.
Yeah.
Now we go. Yeah, for sure.
It was finding that Tom Brady again. It was just, you got to find that guy. There's not a more important position in sport than the quarterback of the team. There's not
There's a reason he's on the side of the building down there.
I'd always tease my running backs when I was coaching. He was like, "Who's the most important guy in this building?" And no, it's not me. It's not the custodian, maybe the equipment manager. But no, it's the quarterback.
Yeah.
The most important guy in this building is the quarterback. As a running back, first thing you have to learn to do is take care of it. That means block guys.
Yeah.
When they blitz, you got to block.
Hardest position in football, but hardest position in sports. Maybe other than a cover corner, man.
They're hard to get.
That's tough.
Well, you look at all the dynasties in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Start with Kansas City. Go to Green Bay. Go to Dallas.
Yep.
And you look at what was the characteristic that separated that dynasty from all the other combinations. It was the head coach and the quarterback.
Yeah.
And the relationship they had, and the continuity of those two guys. That was what it was. In that chapter 1, talk about finding your Tom Brady. Talk about Carl being that guy in high school, and then I was struggling a little bit in college trying to find that guy. And I went to see Gary Barnett when he was at Northwestern, and they just won the Big Ten championship, which was unbelievable.
Yeah, Northwestern.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody listening to this right now that's going to say, no, they're going to fact check you on that.
Yeah, they really did. And I was like, Gary, if there's one thing, he's going on and on and on about stuff, talking about Fitzgerald, linebacker, and all this kind of stuff. I said, what was there one thing? What turned it around? He said, you got to find your quarterback. You got to get a guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy you want. You got to get behind him, and you have to stay with him. And man, if there's a lesson for any young coach out there in trying to build a program, that's probably the number one lesson.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. It's how important it is.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed.
If that's the number one lesson, what's the number one accomplishment you are most proud of from your coaching career? I mean, there's countless, I'm sure. But.
Yeah. you know, I mentioned this early in the book, in the introduction. It's like, you know, when I retired, you know, what's your greatest legacy, your greatest victory, your biggest win, where you've coached, who you've coached, and it was really simple for me. It's really the driving force behind writing this book. My greatest legacy in coaching was that quarterback, Carl Johnson at Gallion High School, who I believed in, and when no one else really did. A lot of coaches and teachers had given up on him, and he really didn't have family support at home. You know, father was incarcerated, stepdad beat him. You know, he just didn't have any place to go. And football saved him just by believing in him and supporting him and being there for him. That's the legacy. That's the greatest accomplishment, because too many of those guys get missed, and they don't have that coach, or they don't have the sport.
Yeah.
And
I think there were countless here who came through that the ones you saw stick it out, right? There was nothing better as a teammate to see them cross the finish line, right? Because there were only a few of us, you know, or few. I mean, there was a handful of people who would see it out 4 or 5 years, right? And the guys you would see give up, right? You knew they were giving up, and they were losing that outlet, or they were losing their, maybe not their way out, but they were losing that center, that being, you know what I mean? And this is what you gave him, was kind of a way out of that tough situation, right?
Yeah.
You see countless guys who would come here. We'd have 100 guys on the team, and each year you'd lose dozens, right? Who you're like, you're going to regret that.
Yeah. A lot of guys would see him come through, you know, getting ready to come in the office. I knew they were coming in to, you know, coach had said, I'm gonna leave, and things are getting tough.
You'll look back
things
on
are
it,
always going to
and
be
you'll
tough.
regret it.
Yeah, and they'll look back on it. It was hard. It really, you know, there were a lot of guys here, and most guys get involved in the sport because they're learning, they're around their teammates. I mean, they're growing, they're enjoying it. But something happens where they quit enjoying it. They're not getting better. They don't, you know, maybe don't have as good a relationships on the team as they would, and there's not anything to kind of keep them there anymore. Yeah. That's the number one thing they say when a player would quit, is it's just not fun anymore. And, you know, I was always come back, well, what happens when being a father is not fun anymore?
Yep.
The job's not fun anymore. Raising a kid's not fun anymore. You're going to quit.
Yeah.
You know, so.
My dad and I just had this discussion the other day. You know, they call it a job, you know, because, yeah, you should enjoy what you do, but unfortunately it's a job because you do a lot of things you don't want to do also.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's just kind of life. That's your career. It's what you choose. You know, they say, you know, find something that you wake up every day and you don't feel like you're working. But if you get any ounce of truth out of somebody, there's always going to be some part of your job that it feels like it's work, and it's not something that you want to do all the time. Yeah. For sure.
I agree. Well, there's a lot of those kind of lessons in here, starting with Carl Johnson. And actually, if I could take a second, ending with, believe it or not, Sue Ramsey. She's profiled. The very last chapter is about legacy.
Yeah.
After I get through that whole building process, all 10 chapters, and I wanted to try to find a way at the very end to pull it all together.
Yeah.
And I was here when Sue Ramsey really started the dynasty in women's basketball. And she's a really special person. You know, she's got a very strong faith, and she just. I really wanted to tell her story in depth like it hadn't been told before, and so the very last part of this is the legacy of Sue Ramsey, and when you talk about legacy, what do you leave behind, and is it sustaining? And you look what Robin was able to do and what Carrie was able to do. Mm-hmm. That's legacy. Yep. That's Sue Ramsey and what she built and who she left behind and what she left behind. And I wanted to be able to tell that. And the same thing's true in life. Our greatest legacy is what we leave behind and what we leave for others, what we can do for others. So in the last chapter, I talk about that. And I talk about a guy by the name of Larry Rader, who was the AD at Crestview when I was there, and he was a mentor for me. And he told me this story. He said, I was getting ready to leave Crestview to go to Gallion, and I wasn't sure what to do. As a young coach, I really liked Crestview. I liked being out there. Yeah. Did you know? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable people.
Yep.
Larry comes to me one day. He says, Coach, there's good and bad everywhere. It's what you make of it. And I found that to be very true as I went from one school to another school, one team to another team. But to follow up on Larry, what I found being in Ashland, there was just seemed a little bit more good here than most places, more good people here than most places, and And that's kind of what separated Ashland. So at the end of the book, I was really able to do is tell some stories about legacies. People who lived a life of meaning and significance and really made a contribution. I talk about the Archers, I talk about the Mellors, I talk about Don Graham, I talk about Ralph Tomasi, I talk about Judd Logan. Some of the people who...
Ralph's another guy. He got dropped off here. He never left.
He never left.
Never left.
Yeah, but all of those names for me, they left an unbelievable mark, and it's really made a difference. And that's legacy. And so that's kind of how you finish the book, and it really is a great way to wrap up. I thought, that the whole team building concept, is, from the athletic perspective initially, but just in life in general and the contribution you can make.
Yeah, that's awesome. That resonates as I, try to find where is going to be home for me, right? I'm getting towards the end of the training portion of this and the medical journey, and right, you look at healthcare and the behemoth that it is. You're going to have problems wherever you go, but like I need to find that spot, like you found, right? There's a little more good here than there is bad. There's going to be problems everywhere you go, but are they problems you can handle and problems that you're in control of?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So the book itself, I think we kind of rehashed. I think we talked your career. What has, first off, when did you finally decide, like, retirement? I'm finally going to do it. Because we talked, and it seemed like every summer, I'm going to go up to the boat. Oh, man, this is pretty nice. I'll come back, And so how did you finally say, all right, it's time?
I was out. I was going to retire about 2 or 3 years prior.
Yeah,
I think most people knew that.
Yeah.
I thought when Travis was done, I was done. That was kind of the initial start,
Yeah.
And we went through COVID, and we went through building a facility, an indoor facility, shortly after Travis left, and I really I felt like I had to get that finished.
Yeah.
It was, that was part of
across the finish line.
The plan with the indoor facility and the plan with, and here's what happened though. In the meantime, COVID comes along, and I get close to another quarterback, Austin Brenner. That's just a special young man.
Yeah.
And I really get close to him. And he has horrific injury out here. Your father,
throws a rod in his leg. And,
he was worried about him walking again, much less playing again.
Yeah.
And told me basically that night of the surgery, the night of the injury and the surgery was the same, that he wouldn't play again. He said he wouldn't mention that to Travis, but he did not believe he would play again. And I didn't either, and most of the people in the community didn't either. But Austin he believed different. And he had a real strong spiritual motivation and support and strength.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have played again. But the guy comes back faster, stronger than ever, and I stay around one more year. He gets a chance to be a senior and play, and it was so rewarding to see him finish his career, to see him lead us to a conference championship, take us into the playoffs, get a playoff win, and be one of the better years we've had since we've been here. And it was just time to go then.
Yeah.
And so Coach Geiser was waiting in the wings patiently.
Yeah.
We all knew he was going to be the next guy, and my goodness, what a great job he has done here in the couple of years he's followed up.
Speaks to the legacy for sure.
Absolutely.
So a lot more time on the boat though now.
A lot more time. It's between the boat and 12 grandchildren.
That'll keep you busy.
Yeah. The golf game. It's
How often are you getting out?
I try to play 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
It comes and goes.
You getting any better?
No. Terrible today. Terrible today.
That's great.
But the fishing's good.
Yeah. No, the golf outing was fun too. You got your own golf outing, so I actually golfed.
And you've got one coming up here now, right?
Yeah, the 29th.
Couple weeks. Okay.
Yeah, the 29th. So yeah, hopefully you can.
We're definitely going to get a team in that.
Yeah,
I've
I
got
love
some
it.
guys lined up.
No pun intended. Hopefully you can swing that one.
Okay.
Cut a little time out of your holiday weekends.
Absolutely.
On the 29th. The Arrows play at home that night too. So
good.
maybe stick around and watch Nathan play. We're going to try and get tickets for all the people who are coming out to the golf outing. So
awesome.
For anybody that hasn't signed up, come on out and. We'll make it a fun
Who are
event.
they playing that night?
I think Bay Village that night.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it may be Bay. either that or Smearhart. I can't remember which one of the two, but yeah. So we'll do the golf outing in the morning. We got some plans for a facility and everything of our own that hopefully we can get off the ground. We're trying to do some cool stuff that we talked with Mayor Miller about, and
Good.
just keep investing back into Ashland. And
Matt's done a great
special
job
place.
here. He really has.
Phenomenal
it's
job.
amazing how things have turned around and his dedication, passion for Ashland, Ohio. So
Yeah.
there's a fun story in here. I'll finish it. I don't know how many folks have realized this or not, but I go back to that Galleon team and that quarterback, Carl Johnson. In his senior year, it was time for him to turn around. He led the NOL in passing his junior year, but we couldn't win the tough games. We ended up 7-3.
Yeah.
So his senior year, we knew we had to win the tough games. We opened against Ashland.
Yeah.
Game 1. Matt Underwood is a quarterback. I don't know how many people realize, and they're beating us. They're beating us by 7
I'll be
late in
honest,
the
Ashland High
game.
School wasn't very good for periods of time too. What years was this?
This is 1985.
85,
In
yeah.
1985, they're beating us, and they take the air out of the ball. They run up and down. We get one more drive left to go, and I get Carl over there and say, "Man, we got to get this done, man. If we don't win this one, we're right back in this. We haven't made the progress we need to make."
Yeah.
So he went down and scored. We threw the 2-point conversion for the victory, and then won the next 13. But
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
win that.
okay.
We don't get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't put that last minute fourth quarter drive together to win here at Arrow Stadium, it wouldn't have happened.
That's incredible.
So a lot of great stories like that,
Absolutely.
that people can grab a hold of and read.
I was just saying, I think everybody needs to get this one, get it on their nightstand wherever. What was the inspiration for the ring?
Well, we talk about excellence. Obviously,
Yeah.
the ring represents championships and excellence. And in this book particular, too, it really kind of separates excellence out of different from success or different from winning. Those things are important, but excellence is it's significant. It's lasting. Back to that Carl Johnson when. That team was excellent. That Crestview team. That team was excellent because everything, what they did, how they did it, and how that team lasted, and the lessons learned, and the players on that team, and what they were able to go on and do. That's what you're trying to find in a team you coach. And we've had some teams like that here that they reach that level, not just in wins and losses, not just in championship rings, but just in being excellent.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you again.
Man,
Appreciate you sitting down with me.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun.
Thanks, Wes. Hanging out back there.